Okay, so today is a review-ish session. If Don and Jenna, and if anyone else joins us, if you have any questions, now is definitely the time to ask. As I had said in those emails, I will be opening up the midterm at 6 this evening. Or 6-ish this evening, and you guys will have 48 hours to complete that, but it has to be done in that hour-and-a-half time frame. So once you open it, sit down, start it, do it, and go from there. There's going to be it goes with that. So make sure you do sign that. In terms of submitting the actual midterm itself, if you want to print it out and handwrite it, that is totally fine. If you want to try and do it on the computer, that's okay. I kind of give that extra time. Sorry, one sec. Okay, sounds good, Jenna. If you want to do it on the computer, that's fine. I know that that's a little bit slower. I'm not super picky on if it takes a couple extra minutes, that's okay, but please don't try and take like an hour 45 or 2 hours. An hour 30 is really your cutoff point. But if you want to download it, print it out, handwrite it, and then upload it by scanning it, by taking pictures, however you want, as long as it's clear, that's good by me. I will let you know if you do choose that method. I'll let you know if I need to have anything re-uploaded or sent with a little bit more clarity. Probably by the weekend, I should be able to at least review all of those for clarity's purposes. Okay. Do write down, I'll put a place for it, but write down your start and stop time on the exam so that I do know I can use that for additional verification, and you guys will be in good shape. So part one is that closed book, closed note, on your honor, hour-and-a-half timed exam. And part two is open book, open note, open internet, use whatever resources you want, essay questions. So those open up on Thursday, and I think I said through Monday to get those in. So that one you can sit and let the content or the questions digest a little bit, process what you want to say, and you have time to go ahead and get those done. Okay. So if you guys have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer those. I do know that I want to spend a little bit of time revisiting goal writing, and there's one component of goal writing. It's not up yet. No, it shouldn't be up yet, Don. 1 second. It should go up on Thursday, but I will check. Yeah, no, nothing is up yet. So it will that part one will get opened up this evening, and part two will get opened up on Thursday. Okay, cool. So questions from you guys, and then I'm going to review goal writing, specifically the criterion component, because that's where most people tend to get tripped up. So we'll take a look at some examples of that and what is or is not goal writing or criterion, and go from there. Okay, so let's start by opening it up to you guys. Dawn or Jenna, do you have any specific questions or any areas that you want me to review?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Jenna? Okay, great. So I think that the hardest part of this midterm is that there is a lot of information, and especially in the summer, it kind of comes very quickly. So it's hard to kind of narrow down what you study. But really be thinking about the big themes, the big ideas. There are definitely some specifics, but all those specifics are related to the main components of the lectures. I'm not looking for minutia. I'm not looking for like to try and trick you guys. So if you have the big ideas, so what have we spoken about? We've spoken about how we got to where we are. We've looked a little bit about court cases and the big law, IDEA, Public Law 142. We've in the recorded lecture, there was the RTI process and the IEP process. They're specifically focusing on the IEP process. The continuum of services was something that we looked over in a lot of detail in those lectures. There was goal writing, and then this past week we had the high incidence and low incidence disability. So if you feel good about those, you're in pretty good shape. Okay. So let's switch back to goal writing just a little bit. Let me see if it's still downloaded. Don't see it on my desktop. Hang on one second. Of course, my computer goes slow now. There we go. Word's opening up. So as I just went through most of the goal writing assignments, and overall I was really impressed. I thought that they were really good. So going through, so a couple of broader things to think about while this opens up. There we go. When we are picking goals, and this is always a bit of a hard piece to conceptualize, especially before you're in a classroom and working with special education students, but really identifying what is an appropriate way to speak about an annual goal. So, all right, can you all see that? See that, Don? Okay, cool. So if I have a second grade student, on its face, is it appropriate for an annual goal for that student to be can recite the alphabet by the end of the year? And on its face, that doesn't seem to be like it would be an appropriate goal. There's not so much challenge attached to that. However, the profile of the student and the context of the goal might determine that that becomes an appropriate goal. Similarly, if I have a fifth grader who I said a goal of is able to complete 1 and 2 step addition and subtraction word problems, that doesn't seem like an appropriate goal. However, the profile of the student might dictate that that has become an appropriate goal. So where we are working on goals that are not on the grade level of the student, we really want to make sure that we have a profile that justifies or some understanding of why we are working on those skills that are below grade level. So really be thinking about how appropriate is this as an annual goal, and how can I communicate where my student is now, currently at the beginning of the IEP year, that makes this an appropriate annual goal. All right. Now, all right, so that's part one. Overall, you guys did a great job of one, making up names for your students. Good job. Two, identifying what the student will do, how they will do it, and under what conditions. You guys were very clear on the types of behaviors that you were looking for. Hang on 1 second, let me get the chat up. There we go. Good, good, I'm glad. And this, the chart really breaks down those critical components, right? So one of the things that I had seen struggles with in the past, and I actually added this, is the under what conditions. And I feel that you guys did have a understanding of that based on your responses. So just to be clear, the significance of the conditions are so that if you have a substitute, if you have a paraprofessional, if you have other people who are coming into the room to work on a goal with that kiddo, they know exactly what is expected, that we have grade level tests, that we have timed sessions, that we have given guided notes, or whatever, a worksheet with no more than 10 word problems on it. The conditions can really determine how well we understand what level of support or what level of independence is really being achieved, right? So we could say under what conditions could be a worksheet with 3 options with 2 options crossed out. That can be a condition under which we select a response. That's a heavily prompted response, but that might be where our student is at, and we need to be able to communicate that through the conditions, all right? Now, the how many times and the for how long, those are where we really get tripped up. And I don't think I did a perfect job by any stretch of explaining that in the last session. So I want to be able to go over that again here. What we are looking for when we say how many times and for how long. So we are working on some behavior, some academic response, some self-management response, whatever it is, all year long. The how many times and for how long is how point by the end of the IEP year, and some of you put that language, end of the IEP year, in your how long, and we want to take that out, and you'll see why in a sec. But by the end of the measurement period, how much behavior are we seeing at the end? And that's my how many times and for how long. So I'll give you a couple of examples. So let's say I'm working on reading fluency. All right. So I have a 2nd grader who is maybe functioning a year below grade level. So their target reading fluency is going to be somewhere in the 50 to 60 words correct per minute. But at the beginning of the year, they're starting off at 30 words correct per minute. So I'm going to be working on, let me make a little, let's see if I can do this. I'll do it this way. All right, so I have my little graph, okay? And 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 words per minute. So this is my goal. This is my end of year. This is my beginning of year. And let's say I'm here at the beginning of the year, all right? So I'm going to be working on this. I'm taking data maybe daily, maybe weekly, whatever it is. All right, so that's my graph. Okay, each time the line changes, that's a new data point. I sat down and I did reading fluency with my kiddo. All right. So I worked on this for like 30 weeks. The annual goal is 50 weeks. It's a full calendar year, let's say. But I at 30 weeks, 35 weeks, I met my goal. I got to my criterion level responding. So when I write my criterion for my student, I am only defining what I need to see at the end of not the IEP period, but the end of the behavior period that is going to signify that the goal is met. So what I'm defining with my criterion is right here. And maybe I'll say right here. What I have here is 1, 2, 3 data points. So 3 sessions, we can say, that are above my goal level. So I might say, Charlie will read a grade level, a second grade level passage with 60 and 3 incorrect words per minute. Correct words per minute and incorrect words per minute. There we go. Charlie will read a second grade level passage with 60 correct words per minute and no more than 3 incorrect words per minute. 3 on 3 consecutive readings. All right, so I can say, given a text on second grade level, Charlie will read, I'll say this is, read a passage from the text with 60 correct words per minute and no more than 3 incorrect words per minute on 3 consecutive readings. All right, so that doesn't, I don't say anything that I'm measuring it weekly. I can, it could be daily. It could be given a text on a second grade level and 1 daily opportunity to read the text. Charlie will read a passage from the text with 60 correct words per yada, yada, yada. All right. So I can add more to my conditions, but what matters here is I have 60 correct words per minute and no more than 3 incorrect words per minute on 3 consecutive readings. That is what I have right here. Let's say below my criterion line, so I have not yet met criterion, right? I have to do 2 more before I get there. All right. Where one of the areas that we make mistakes for our goals is we say something along the lines of over the course of the IEP year, or we'll read a passage from the text with 60 correct words per minute, no more than 3 incorrect words per minute during the IEP year, or every week for the year. The problem with those is if I have 1 data point below the criterion level, I can't meet my goal. Student will raise their hand every day over the IEP year, right? That's not a goal. That's saying that they have to come in doing it and they have to do it every single day. Otherwise, we don't meet our goal. That's not something we're working on. That's not something we're learning. So the criterion is really putting a microscope at the end of this, the learning period, and saying, how much behavior do I need to see to know for sure that my goal is met? All right. So in this case, again, 60 correct words per minute. I don't have any incorrects down here. 3 consecutive readings. Okay. If we take another example, we might be looking at a behavioral goal. All right. A behavior goal might be that the student is going to greet teachers. All right. We can't say, or don't want to say, that they will do this every day for an IEP year or over the course of the year. Because again, if they come in on the first day and they don't greet their teachers, they haven't met their goal. But what we want to say there, or look for there, is how many consecutive days does the child have to come in and greet their teacher to say that yes, they have mastered greeting their teacher. So it might be greets teachers in the morning every day for 5 consecutive days. If I have a student who is working on greetings and comes in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday every day and greets their teacher, is that enough behavior to say that yes, we no longer need to work on that? And for some students, the answer to that might be yes. For some students, the answer to that might be no, right? Depending on the importance of the goal, you may need a much stricter requirement to say that it's mastered. One of the examples that I use is, let's say the goal is looks both ways before crossing the street. All right. If I see that one time, child stops and looks both ways before they cross the street, is that enough behavior to say yes? Probably not. We need to see that multiple times. Let's say child does it 5 consecutive times. Is that enough to say that they've mastered it? Let's say they do it, you give 5 opportunities in a day to cross the street, right? Is 80% accuracy appropriate for that goal? Let's say 80% accuracy, so that's 4 out of 5 for 5 consecutive days. Is that enough? I would say no. Looking both ways before you cross the street has to be mastered at 100% accuracy. We don't want any opportunities missed. We want that to be fluent, that I get to a street, I look both ways. So that might be a goal where you have to say 5 out of 5 opportunities every day for 15 consecutive days or 3 consecutive weeks, right? Now we're talking about enough behavior to say, okay, if we're not going to focus on this every day, I still believe that you are going to actually emit that behavior independently. We don't want our kids running across the street. That is a much higher or more important goal. We want to make sure we see a lot of that behavior. One of the examples that was given in the assignment, someone put counting from 1 to 100 with 90% accuracy. In my mind, that is a goal that has to have 100% accuracy. If they mix up 10 numbers, counting from 0 to 100, to me, that's an important enough skill where that's not mastery. I got to make sure that you know how to count from 0 to 100. So maybe I do 100% accuracy 5 consecutive times. If you miss one at any point there, that's an issue, and we still need to continue to practice that. Now, contrast that with reading fluency, where I'm allowing 3 incorrect words per minute because passages change. And if you missed reading a word, if you read a word incorrectly, you're not going to get hit by a car. So that's okay. So we are okay with some level of incorrect behavior. We can correct that. We can continue to work on that. If we're doing a math problem, we can continue to work on that. You don't need to get every single math problem right. But in order to get to the math problems, we have to know that you understand how to get from 0 to 100. So that is a prerequisite skill that we do have to make sure we have right. If you're working on calculus, you better know how to add and subtract and multiply and divide. Those are prerequisite skills that you have to have to 100% accuracy in order to work on calculus. So the type of goal that you're working on is going to define what that criteria actually has to look like. When you're making that criteria, you're really focusing on this end goal. Okay? So let's take another look at a graph. Let's use right. So let's child 5 opportunities a day to cross the street independently. All right. So we're there for the first day. And on that first day, they step into the street. There are no cars. We're in a safe parking lot. It's okay. They step in the street and they don't look both ways. All right. So we know they're not going to get 5. And then they don't the second time. They do the third time. They don't the fourth time. And they do the 5th time. So this data point is 2. So that's 40% accuracy on the first day. So I know if I need 15 consecutive days of this, that I'm going to have to do this for at least 15 more days before we get there. Day 2, we get to 3. So we're still not there. Day 3, we get to 5. Great. We're still not there. Day 4, we're at 5. Day 6, we're back down to 4. So now we start over. All right. I don't have to notate anything. I don't have to change anything on the graph, but I know that we need to start over. So we keep going. 3, 4, 5. Something keeps happening, and we start every few days. We forget one. It's not automatic enough. And for this goal, we need to see that automatic, without thinking, without forgetting, always doing. And we do that 15 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. My goal is this accuracy over 15 days, not over 100 days, not over 180 days, but over 15 days. I'm allowing for learning to take place. I'm allowing for mistakes to happen and still allow myself to meet that goal. All right. So how we look at that criterion, again, focusing on, I defined my goal by what that end amount of behavior is. 5 out of 5 times 15 consecutive days, sessions, opportunities, whatever that is going to look like. All right. Dawn, Jenna, any questions about that? Does that make sense? Does that help clarify the concept of criterion? Good. Jenna, any thoughts there? Okay, great. All right, so that was the big thing that I wanted to cover for today, because that is a really challenging piece, especially before you're in a classroom and you see lots of examples of goals. So I'm glad that helps. That's good. I know I didn't give you my own personal real live lecture on RTI and continuum of services. Are there any questions about that? Big component that I do want to make sure. Are you guys clear on all the different levels? You want any clarification? I think 4 after the midterm, 4 weeks after the midterm. So it goes quick. It goes, we are quite literally halfway. All right, I'm looking, so you guys know this is what I'm looking at right now. This is the content that I didn't go over as in depth with you. I say that you guys got the full lectures, which is probably even better. The RTI model, that makes sense to you guys? Trying to think. All right, that's good. IEP. He spoke about this last week, I think, yeah. All right, this was on the lecture. Different parts of the IEP. Oh, that's another one that I want to make sure that I say the words now. We'll spend a minute on that. Where are they? Adaptations. Yeah, I'll go over this again. All right. So this is a big section of the IEP that I think is often misused or misunderstood by a lot of teachers and a lot of districts. So on the IEP, and hopefully this was all said, I think this was all said in those lectures that I posted, but a big component of the IEP after the goals is identifying, let's see, where is it? Hang on. Cool writing there. Oh, that's next week. Uh-oh. Did the here it is. Here we go. This part. This is what I wanted. Did the lectures that I posted go over adaptations? Do you remember? Or accommodations and modifications?
I don't remember.
I can't either. Okay, well, I'll go over it now, just to make sure. Okay, good, Jenna. I'm really glad. So it is important. All right, but I'll go over them now just to make sure. So a big component of the IEP is identifying what support a child is going to receive in their classroom, right? This could be for an assessment. This could be for during instruction. This could be for note taking. This could be for communication. There are all sorts of different areas where a child could be receiving support in the classroom. And these supports are called adaptations, all right? They are changes to the environment, to the curriculum, to the instruction that allow the child to better or more effectively contact the information that is being presented, or to communicate that information to a teacher. So we have to make sure that we don't operate under this mindset that, all right, we have a child with a disability. Either all children with this disability receive these adaptations, or we have a child with a disability, therefore they get some set of adaptations. But rather, we need to make sure that the supports that we put in, the adaptations we put in, are important and relevant to the actual supports that are needed for that student given their disability. All right. So if we have a child who's diagnosed with autism, who has a behavioral concern, but does not have any academic concern, then we don't necessarily need to put academic supports in. If they can read with fluency, if they can write with fluency, if they can talk with fluency, then we don't need to put additional time for assignments. If they do any of those things slower as a result of their disability, then we might need to put in time and a half or additional support for those assignments. However, it can't be they come in with this disability, therefore they get this support. We have to really analyze each student and the needs of each student to identify what those supports are going to be. So adaptations are not there to make a teacher's life easier. They're not there to make a teacher's life harder, but they are not put in just because it is something that is going to make your day less challenging, right? Oftentimes accommodations or adaptations are actually more challenging to put in, but if they're benefiting the student, then that is what they actually need. So we have to make sure that our adaptations are put in to address the unique needs of the child that result from the child's disability, and to ensure access to the gen ed curriculum so that he or she can meet educational standards. So let's think about this in a couple of different ways. Let's take that child with autism and who has behavioral concerns, especially when they don't receive feedback on responses. All right. So if they emit a response, if they read something, they do a math problem, and the teacher doesn't give feedback, the child has a hard time with that. And maybe they emit tantrum behavior, maybe they shut down, maybe something happens. That environment defines a testing environment, right? We don't tell students whether they got their answers correct during a test. We wait until after the test. We give lots of feedback. So I have just defined a student who emits aberrant behavior during a testing environment. A common adaptation is that time and a half for 5 minutes instead of an hour and a half. However, for that child, I've just said, instead of being in a testing environment for an hour, where you are going to emit tantrum behavior because you're not getting feedback, now you have to be there for an hour and a half. So that is not an appropriate accommodation or adaptation for that student, because we are not analyzing what are the unique needs of that child that result from disability. An appropriate adaptation might be that the child can request to end the testing session. They can say, I don't want to do this. I can't do this without you telling me these responses, language aside, and we can end the testing session. That is an adaptation that actually meets the child's needs. And maybe we can assess in some other form. All right, so we really have to make sure that we are doing what is necessary for the student, as opposed to just like this form, check it off, check it off, check it off. So there are two types of adaptations that are available. There are accommodations and modifications. Accommodations are where we are going to change the method by which something is received or expressed. We're not going to actually change the content or the amount. Modifications are where we adapt the actual expectations to something that is more appropriate or realistic. So an accommodation might be to type an essay instead of write an essay, to use manipulatives or a calculator instead of having to do mental math. All right, you still have to do the math, you still have to write the essay, but how you do it is, or how it's perceived, is changed. A modification is where we actually change the amount or the quantity or the quality of the work. Write 2 pages instead of 4. Answer 10 problems instead of 20. Get 5 right instead of 10 right to get your passing grade, okay? Both of these are adaptations, but one changes how something is expressed or received, and the other changes the actual expectation or the amount of work that is to be completed. In both situations, we need to analyze whether or not those are impacted directly by the disability, and are we allowing the child to contact the curriculum as or more effectively than without. Generally speaking, we should try to use accommodations before we try modifications. We want to give the child every opportunity to meet the goals as they are set out, maybe in a different way, before we actually change those goals. This is particularly important in an inclusion setting, right? We are working on general education curriculum. We are working with other general education students. We want to give our students the opportunity to complete the same amount, quality, and quantity of work. I would rather support the way they get there instead of support the standard itself. So another thing that by putting accommodations in, we are understanding that children may potentially learn in different ways or demonstrate learning in different ways, right? If you have a child that has a hard time writing, but is fluent typing or fluent speaking, how critical is it to the standard that they write their response? In some cases, it might be very critical. And then we have to analyze that. If I'm doing cursive practice, I can't type cursive. I can't speak cursive. Cursive, you have to write. So maybe we have to modify the standard for a child who has difficulty writing in order to meet that cursive standard or goal, okay? By using a modification, what you're really saying is that the student can't demonstrate the same level of work as others. They can demonstrate to the same standard, potentially, but not as much, all right? Or that they can produce plenty, but not to the same standard. So by putting in the modification, you're saying they can contact this, but not to the same degree. We have to think about what that means in terms of the child's education. That might mean that they're not mastering it to the same extent, which means that they can't use those for other skills, all right? Those are the types of things that we want to think about. All right. So within the adaptations, there are 3 types of adaptations that can be used. So we have accommodations and modifications. So we want to think of, let's see if this works, of this umbrella. So we have adaptations, adaptations. Then under that, we have accommodations and modifications. And then under each of those, we have three types or three ways in which we can accommodate or modify. We have curricular accommodations and modifications. We have instructional accommodations and modifications. And we have ecological accommodations and modifications. So curricular adaptations, accommodations, or modifications are where we are adapting what is taught. Instructional, we adapt how it is taught. And ecological, we adapt the setting that it is taught in, who or where. So an example of a curricular accommodation might be, actually, let me go down a little bit because, whoops, that didn't work. Clear all drawings, there we go. And annotate. All right, here we go. So examples of curricular adaptations might be supplemental curricula, where we address target skills in different ways or address skills that are not targeted in the gen ed curriculum. So this is an example of an adaptation, or sorry, an accommodation, where let's say we have a curriculum that works on math fluency, but not in an effective way for the student. So we get a supplemental curricula that focuses on math fluency. So we are not changing what they're doing, we're not changing the standard that they are doing it to, but we're giving them additional opportunities, all right, in order for them to achieve fluency. Another example of curricular adaptation is to simplify the curriculum. This is, in this situation, we may identify the most necessary skills or activities that serve as prerequisites for future skills. So this might be a curricular modification. We are altering the scope and sequence of the curricula to more appropriately meet the needs of the student. Similarly, if we use alternative curricula, something totally separate and apart from the gen ed curriculum, depending on what that curriculum is, that might be an accommodation or a modification. If it's working on different types of skills, it's a modification. If it's working on presenting those skills in a different way, it is an accommodation, all right? So when we change how something is received, or expressed, sorry, it's that accommodation. If we change what they are required to do, it is a modification. Instructional, we are really looking at the actual instruction. Are we, again, adapting the way instruction is delivered or the way in which a student responds? So if I'm presenting instruction in different vocabulary, rewrite text at an appropriate reading level, provide prompts, modify feedback, or present instruction through multiple means. These are all different ways that I can change how instruction is delivered, right? If I rewrite text at an appropriate level, I'm actually modifying my instruction. I am saying that you're not going to contact my instruction at grade level, so I'm bringing it down grade level for you to contact it. That's actually changing how the physical instruction that's delivered. An accommodation might be giving guided notes. You're getting the same information, right? But I am writing out the notes for you. Maybe you put in keywords, but you have your own physical copy to read instead of looking up at the board. So again, one is changing how something is taught or instructed. The other is changing the actual content of it. Or we can adapt the way in which students respond. So we might allow students to vocally respond for normally written exercises. We could allow extra time for students to think and respond, or allow students to respond through those multiple means. Again, if I am requiring that you give me a 3-page essay, but you type it, you vocally say it, that would be a lot. Instead of handwriting it, I'm not changing how much you have to do, but I'm changing the way in which you respond to meet your needs. If I change how much you have to do, then I am actually modifying. All right. And finally, we have ecological adaptations. So this is the actual physical space or who or when instruction is delivered. Quiet rooms, that is a modification. Desk positioning, that is an accommodation. When instruction is delivered, allowing for breaks, allowing for additional instructional time during or after the day. Who delivers the instruction? Different teachers, paraprofessionals, all right? These are different ways that we can adapt the environment to meet the needs of those students. So again, let me diagram this one more time, because I think it's important. We have adaptations. Underneath those adaptations, we have accommodations and modifications. And then under each of those, we have curricular, instructional, ecological, curricular, instructional, ecological. All right. Does that make sense? Providing support to the student, changing how something is expressed or received, changing the expectations or how much of something is done, doing that for the curriculum, for our instruction, or for the instructional environment. All right, those are all the different ways in which we can provide support to our students with disabilities in the regular ed class. And I think we are in good shape. Any questions about that, Jenna or Don? All right, awesome, great. Okay, so use the next few hours or day or however long you would like to go ahead and study. I think I'm going to extend my question and answer period until like 9 o'clock tonight. So as long as you catch me before I go to bed, I will try and answer any questions that you may have. Again, do not kind of on your honor, do not open the exam and then ask questions. Questions must be asked prior to the opening of the exam. And I'll know. Once you start, you have about an hour and a half. Respond however you see fit. If you want to handwrite it, print it out, that's fine. If you want to do it on your computer, that's fine. Let me know if you have any issues uploading it. I will make sure that Moodle can accept multiple files so that if you do it one by one, that will be okay. You don't have to worry about combining everything, and we should be good to go. All right. That's it for now. Awesome. Have a good one.